Welcome to the Kuhner Report, 6:05 on AM 680 WRKO and now on 93.7 HD2. Good morning, Boston. 617-266-6868. If you want to be part of the show, you can text us at 680-680. The dear leader now warns of dysfunction. Absolutely incredible story. As you know, all of the polls have been showing, and a lot of the pundits have been saying what I basically said 6 months ago, which is that the dear leader, President Barack Hussein Obama, and the Democrats are going to get hammered in the November midterm elections. All the polls now show the Republicans are going to win more seats in the House. They're going to consolidate their grip on the House. And they are now poised, if the elections were held today, to take over the Senate. And it's not just the New York Times, and it's not just the Washington Post, and it's not just the Huffington Post and the Boston Globe that are in absolute panic. The White House has now gotten the memo. And so after weeks of bragging and boasting that he's not worried about the midterm elections, yesterday, where does the dear leader go? To his friends in Hollywood. And at a major gala event hosted by Walt Disney Studios chairman Alan Horn and his wife Cindy Horn, a lot of the Hollywood heavy hitters came out. Barbara Streisand, Jeffrey Katzenberg, Tom Rothman, James Brolin, all of them, according to the pool report, the White House pool report. And the dear leader was there to raise money. Buckets full of cash. He now has to run to the supposed 1% that he vilifies, but takes their money, the Hollywood left-wing community, to fill the coffers of for House and Senate Democratic candidates. And as the dear leader stood there underneath the tent, whereby people paid $10,000 a pop just to listen to him speak and have a little dinner, the dear leader now warned that Democrats were poised to lose the midterm elections. He warned that, in fact, the Republicans would win more seats in the House, and if the Democrats are not careful, they will lose control of the Senate. And the dear leader then said, if this happens, this will cement gridlock and dysfunction in Washington and around the country. And he fears that if the Democrats are to lose control of the Senate and lose control of Congress, that the country will then be headed, in his words, in a downward trajectory. That now America will head downwards and become a country in decline. And he fears, as he tells the people, as they're sitting there gorging on lobster, shrimp cocktails and lobster tails, and drinking Dom Perignon, that this gridlock could lead to massive dysfunction, could lead to utter paralysis. He believes could lead to, in a sense, the decline and fall of the United States. And so now trying to whip up frenzy among the crowd, basically trying to fearmonger them. He's telling them that this is now for Democrats and for the country, all or nothing. Because if the Republicans take back control of Congress, not just the House, but the Senate, then he says there's so much frustration out there, so much anxiety out there, this country will no longer be able to work. And I'm reading this, and I'm asking myself, is this guy for real? I mean, really, is this guy for real? So basically, the race card hasn't worked. The war on women hasn't worked. Class warfare hasn't worked. In fact, he's begging for money from the so-called 1%, that hypocrite that he is, that he always demonizes. And I got to tell you, just as a quick aside, it's not cheap It's not cheap to give money to the dear leader. Believe me, you and I couldn't be in that room, in that little tent. Apparently the event, it was $10,000 per person, and they also threw in a dinner, and a photo op, so you actually get a picture. You actually get a picture. $10,000 gets you a little dinner, and it gets you a picture with the dear leader. Basically, he's pimping out the presidency. And then, but if you donate $32,400 per couple, well, then you're listed as a sponsor. And that means you take part in a VIP reception, which means not only do you take a picture with the dear leader, you get the boogie with the dear leader. You get to shake the dear leader's hands. Can you imagine that? That's worth $32,400. But hold on. There's a platinum level. There's more. Those that donate $64,800 per couple. Well, you're not just a sponsor. You're listed, I swear to you, quote, as hosts, quote unquote. And I swear, according to the program, you could then take part in I don't know what this means, in a, quote, VIP clutch. I guess you don't just boogie with the dear leader. You don't just shake the dear leader's hand, but if you pay $64,800, you get to hug the dear leader. You get to embrace the dear leader. Maybe even give him a peck on the cheek. Huh? Can you believe that? You hug and kiss the Sun King. You can actually hug the Messiah for $64,800. Can you believe that? So, he's raising money. Today, he's in San Diego in the Bay Area raising more money. He's heading off to Beverly Hills to raise more money. He's got to raise money because he knows the Democrats are going to get shellacked in November. But the deeper point is this. Now he's threatening dysfunction. Now suddenly the country's going to fall apart. Now suddenly he's basically threatening we're going to become a third world banana republic. We're going to become, quote, dysfunctional. We're going to start falling into decline. I got news for you, dear leader. This may come as a shock to you. We're already in decline. That's because of you, dear leader. That's because of your policies, dear leader. Have you looked at the dollar lately? Have you looked at our debt lately? Have you looked at the jobs lately? Have you looked at the economy lately? Have you looked at our military lately, dear leader? Those were your policies. Don't start blaming the Tea Party and Republicans for already he's blaming America's decline on the Tea Party and Republicans, and they haven't even won the midterms. He's already playing the blame game before the elections have even taken place. Now, here is the kicker. There is a prominent editor at the New Yorker magazine. I read it just to know what the other side is thinking. Honestly, I think it's a badly written magazine. It's these long pieces, meandering. Seriously, this guy is an editor, but he doesn't do any editing. I mean, God, does that magazine need to be edited? But let that go. It's all these basically pretentious limousine liberals who write out of New York or Washington. And the editor is David Remnick, uber liberal. He wrote a biography of the dear leader in 2008 called The Bridge. He's now working on another biography. He's basically Obama's official biographer. And so he goes on MSLFBC's Morning Joe. Now, even the liberals are now sensing a political tsunami in November. And even the liberals are now acknowledging on Ukraine, the president has been paralyzed. On Syria, the president has been paralyzed. On Iran, the president has been paralyzed. On the economy, ineffective. On the deficit and the debt, ineffective. On dealing with Congress, ineffective. I mean, I could just go on and on. They're now admitting, their words, not mine, that the president appears unfocused and in many ways largely uninterested in many of today's most pressing policy issues. David Remnick actually concedes that. This is the official hack for the dear leader. Okay, this was his biggest fan in 2008. The guy now is going to write another biography. His own biographer is saying, I'll be honest with you, I don't understand. I mean, the economy is not doing well, and he doesn't seem like he really cares. And the job market is really bad, especially for young people and those of working age, and he doesn't seem to care. And you've got this war in Europe, and he just doesn't seem to care. And you've got the Middle East in flames, and he just doesn't seem to care. He's not focused. He's not interested. So what, according to David Remnick, what is the answer? What is the reason for why the dear leader just appears to be out of his league and out of his depth? Why does he appear to be so uninterested? I swear to you, brace yourself for this. This is now the new liberal line. It's not Obama that's failed America and the world. No, 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 no. The world, according to David Remnick, has failed Obama. As he put it, the world seems to have disappointed him. The world has disappointed the dear leader. Here is David Remnick in his own words saying, don't blame, I swear, don't blame, he's not crazy. Don't blame him. The world is crazy. The world has disappointed him. Roll it, Britain.
The profile that I published in the New Yorker was somebody that eerily seemed to be claiming himself. There was a sense of not giving up, but of deep frustration. That was the profile that I published in the New Yorker. Somebody frustrated and disappointed. And that's what's frustrating to me sometimes about Obama, is that the world seems to disappoint him. Republicans disappoint him. Bashar al-Assad disappoints him.
The balls.
Putin as well. And the fighting spirit sometimes is lacking in the performative aspects of the presidency. Do I think at the end of 8 years that this will go down as a terrible presidency? I don't.
No. And the world disappoints me. It's not what I wanted when I became president. I got to deal with Boehner and Bashar Assad and Putin and those Republicans and the economy, and no, it's not the way. It's not the way I want it to be, Daddy. It's not the way I want the world to be, Daddy. He is like a petulant 3-year-old, and this is what happens when you have a community organizer in the White House who's never had any real-world experience. 617-266-6868 is the number. The dear leader now threatens dysfunction. His people are now saying the world has disappointed him. Did they ever think maybe he's disappointed us?
We're not perfect.
Dude, I cannot believe I am on your show, man.
But some think we are.
I'm about ready to pee my pants.
This is AM 680 WRKO.
The profile that I published in the New Yorker was somebody that eerily seemed to be claiming himself. There was a sense of not giving up, but of deep frustration. That was the profile that I published in the New Yorker. Somebody frustrated and disappointed. And that's what's frustrating to me sometimes about Obama, is that the world seems to disappoint him.
That was Obama biographer, ultra-liberal, one of his biggest supporters, the editor of the New Yorker magazine, David Remnick, saying, it seems like the world has disappointed their leader. 617-266-6868 is the number. It's now 6:23 here on the great WRKO. He was also, speaking of the dear leader, he was in Hollywood last night at the home of the chairman of Walt Disney and the wife, Alan and Cindy Horn, raising a ton of money. At that event, he warned of a Republican victory in the midterm elections, saying this will unleash dysfunction, basically turning us into a banana republic if they should win in November. that Washington will become dysfunctional, the country will become dysfunctional should the Republicans win in November. He's now urging Democrats to raise a lot of money, give to Senate candidates, give to House candidates. So obviously now the strategy is clear. The war on women, niet, not going to work. Fomenting the race card, racial divisions, niet, that's not going to work. Class warfare, he needs their money now. Niet. So now basically the country will be torn apart. The country will be utterly paralyzed if the Republicans regain control of Congress. Have you noticed with this guy? He really is like a 3-year-old. You know, I swear, it's Bush's fault. No, it's Putin's fault. It's all Bashar Assad just won't give up his chemical weapons. No, I'm disappointed in you. You disappointed me. I was supposed to be the anointed one. You don't listen to me. You know, have you noticed all these liberals constantly go on about diversity and compassion and the need for tolerance, but they can't handle any diversity. He can't handle ideological diversity. What, people oppose you? That's a problem? It is a democracy. Oh, you have to deal with an opposition in Congress? Ooh, what's the matter? You don't like political diversity? Every grown-up that's been in the White House, here, Nixon, I know eventually he was forced out. He dealt with Democrats. Eisenhower dealt with a Democratic Congress. Reagan, the last 2 years of his presidency, dealt with a Democratic Congress. Bush 41 for 4 years dealt with a Democratic Congress. Clinton for 6 years dealt with the Gingrich-led Republican Congress. Bush 43, the evil Bush. 2006 to 2008, he had to deal with Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid. Every president has to deal with the opposition. What, has he never picked up a book and read American history? That's what happens when you have a community organizer in the White House who has no real life experience. Life is about cutting deals. And even many liberals are saying, you can't cut a deal with John Boehner? Anybody can cut a deal with John Boehner. But he's like a child. He's like it's like he can't play in the sandbox. He's like a little child. It's my way or the highway. And so now, as his presidency is crumbling all around him, now the shtick is, he's not crazy. The world is crazy. The world let him down. Well, I'm sorry. The world's let me down. I gotta deal with the world as it is, not as I wish it or want it to be. You know what that is? It's called being an adult. That's the difference between being a teenager and being an adult. Adults deal with the world as it is. Teenagers, like this guy, this overgrown teenager with his big ears, Dumbo, like a teenager, no, I don't want the world this way. It's got to be my way, not the world's way. 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Ronnie, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Regarding the president's trip to Hollywood, he's going to be spending a lot of time in Hollywood for a couple reasons. Hollywood's fortunes are tied to the Democrats, Jeff. They have become so dependent on the federal government for their funds, for their message that, let's be honest, Jeff, people have never gone to the movies less. People are turning off Hollywood. They're turning off all of these left-wing stations like MSNBC and CNN that just get absolutely horrible ratings no matter how much money they pump into David Gregory or Chris Matthews. I mean, people are just turning Hollywood off, and Hollywood really believes that a Republican presidency is going to hurt their profit margin even more. And it's not just Hollywood. People have never gone to concerts less. People have never bought music less. I mean, rap music, black unemployment is so chronic under this administration. The black community doesn't have the money it used to have to support rap music and rap concerts and, sneakers and T-shirts and everything else. It's Hollywood's in every bit as much trouble as the Democrats are. In fact, it's gotten so desperate for the Democrats. Say what you want about Republicans, but they're actually out there campaigning that if you elect Republicans in the midterms, the weather's going to get worse. The climate change is going to get worse under Republicans. I mean, this is how desperate and pathetic it's gotten. Hollywood's terrified. The Democrats are terrified, and they should be, Jeff, because we've never been tuning them out in greater numbers before, ever.
Excellent call, Ronnie. Excellent. 617-266-6868. Roy, you're up next on RKO. Welcome, sir.
Yes, Jeff, in normal times, you would be correct about the Republicans winning, but we are in emergency times, and I can give you 10 quick reasons that the communists will win in 2014. Number one, amnesty passes. Number two, if it doesn't pass, he'll executive order all of them in. Number three, SCYTL Corporation will fraudulently tabulate all the ballots. 4, Obama will launch a false flag canceling the 2014 election. 5, the internal extortion service will financially pressure the Tea Party. 6, the blackmailing NSA will discourage all Tea Partiers. 7, the FCC will regulate the Internet before the 2014 election. 8, the Internet will now be run by the Communist United Nations. 9, as always, the Communist Party will awaken the dead to vote. 10, the Communist Party will continue to buy votes via welfare.
Roy, don't give them ideas, Roy. Roy, they listen to the show. Don't give them ideas, Roy. 6:30. Do you think Obama is right to blame the world for his failed presidency? And he is now threatening dysfunction. Do you believe there will be dysfunction if Republicans win in November? 617-266-6868, 6:30 on WRKO. Let's take it to Angela in the newsroom. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 637 here on AM 680 WRKO. 617-266-6868 is the number. You know, have you noticed with Obama, with the dear leader, nothing is ever his fault. It's like my little Ashton. I swear, nothing is ever his fault. Yesterday, he spilled milk all over the floor. I go, Ashton, buddy, what the hell? What just happened? Yeah. And then he repeats me now. He loves that phrase. He goes, Daddy, what the hell? Daddy, what the hell? I'm like, Ashton, what, buddy, what just happened here? And he's like, and he points at Ava. I go, no, don't point at Ava. What do you mean? Ava, she's 18 months. She didn't spill. You spilled the milk. Sorry, Daddy. That's the dear leader. Nothing is ever his fault. Benghazi is not his fault. The IRS is not his fault. The stagnant economy is not his fault. The crippling debt and deficit is not his fault. Ukraine is not his fault. Syria is not his fault. Nothing is his fault. When Reagan dealt with Tip O'Neill, and the Democrats loathed Reagan, the liberals hated Reagan. They wanted to knock his head off, politically. He'd have a glass of whiskey, he'd call in Tip, give him a glass of whiskey, they'd sit down and say, all right, listen, Tip, you're the House Speaker, you run the House of Representatives, what do you need, Tip? Because here's what I need. This is what you need, this is what I need. And we come to an arrangement. I get what I want, you get what you want, you walk away happy, I walk away happy. Have you noticed with this guy, all he does is call names. Extremist, teabagger. He can't sit down and negotiate his way out of a paper bag. And then when everything blows up in his face, because he hit the reset button with Russia, he misunderestimated Putin, it's Putin's fault. He warned Bashar Assad, drew a red line, everybody crossed it, now it's Bashar Assad's fault. He's running in 2008. What did he think? The Republicans were just going to lay down for him? You want to know the only place on earth where really there is no opposition? There is no, quote-unquote, diversity? political diversity, intellectual diversity, ideological diversity. North Korea. The world never disappoints Kim Jong-un, the mad midget, the communist dictator of North Korea, because basically it's a totalitarian dictatorship. So is this what we need for the dear leader to feel comfortable, where everybody just bows down in front of him like he's Caesar, like he's some power mad Roman emperor? And just to show you, this guy is warning about dysfunction when every other president has dealt with the opposition party in Congress. Here, Clinton had 6 years of the Republicans controlling Congress. Did the sky fall? Did the country suddenly collapse into becoming Ecuador overnight because suddenly you had Republicans running Congress? He dealt with Congress. That's our system. And it's worked for 230 years, dear leader. There's going to be no dysfunction. You're going to be on the defensive. You're going to be facing investigations. That's what you're worried about. You're worried about Benghazi. I know that. You're worried about the IRS. I got a story on that the next hour. I understand. All your crimes and abuses of power, now they're going to catch up with you. That's what you're really worried about, dear leader. But you want to talk about dysfunction. Here, check this out. As the dear leader is in Hollywood, raising a lot of money from the 1%ers and stuffing his face on shrimp cocktails and Dom Perignon, Ted Cruz released a damning report yesterday about all of the lawless actions that Obama has taken during his presidency. Okay, almost 6 years. The report is called the Legal Limit Report number 4, the Obama administration's abuse of power. And in the report, Ted Cruz writes rightly that rather than honoring his duty, President Obama has openly defied it by repeatedly suspending, delaying, or waiving portions of the laws that he is charged to enforce. That he has been utterly consistent in engaging in one lawless action after another. And whether this be on the federal welfare law, on drug laws, on the Federal Defense of Marriage Act, on immigration laws, this president has been consistently violating the law time and time and time again. The man who's spreading dysfunction is you, dear leader. The man who's behaving like a wannabe dictator is you, dear leader. And so 76 specific lawless actions is what Ted Cruz outlines in his report that Obama has taken while in office. Let me just read to you 8 of them. Okay, there's all 76, but let me just give you some, just a little taste, the good ones of what the dear leader has been doing. 1, Obama implemented portions of the DREAM Act by executive action. He's completely right. Basically giving amnesty to the children of illegal immigrants. He does not have the power or authority to do that. A clear violation of the Constitution, a clear violation of the authority of Congress. That is a crime, what he did. Blatantly illegal. Number 2, ended some terror asylum restrictions. He doesn't have the power to do that. 3, remember in Utah, there was a big debate in Utah about same-sex marriage? The people of Utah don't want it. A judge basically forced it on the people of Utah. It went to a Supreme Court. The Supreme Court stayed the lower court's ruling, saying, let us decide this. Obama went in and recognized same-sex marriage in Utah, even though the Supreme Court said, niet, wait till we rule. So, recognize same-sex marriage in Utah despite a Supreme Court stay on a court order allowing the institution. Doesn't have the power to do that. That's illegal. Number 4, illegally revealed the existence of sealed indictments in the Benghazi investigation. Now the people who committed the atrocities in Benghazi know that we know their names and we've released them to the public. He didn't have the power or the authority to do that. Number 5, this is all the delays regarding Obamacare. Illegally delayed Obamacare verification of eligibility for health care subsidies. He had no power to do that. He violated the clear statute, the clear written statute of Obamacare. Number 6, do you remember this one? ordered Boeing to fire 1,000 employees in South Carolina and shut down a new factory because it was, quote, non-union. Who the hell is he to order a private company to fire 1,000 of their workers and shut down a new factory which will create jobs for that community because his labor relations management board decides that we want a union factory instead of a non-union factory? You don't have the power or the authority to do that. You're not Vladimir Putin. Number 7. Remember during the GM bankruptcy when the government took over GM? Terminated the pensions of 20,000 non-union Delphi employees in the GM bankruptcy. Just kissed away their pensions. Because they were not union. They weren't part of his team. They weren't part of his base. He did not have the power to do that. Again, that's what Vladimir Putin does. 8. Government agencies are engaging in Operation Chokepoint, where the government asks banks to choke off access to financial services for customers engaging in conduct to the administration does not like, such as ammunition sales. So, you're selling ammunition legally. Government doesn't like it. They put pressure on through financial institutions and banks to not lend you money if you need money. That's economic terrorism. Again, that's what they do in Mother Russia. We're not an Eastern European dictatorship. You're not what the Russians called, what they call Putin, the vozhd, the boss. You are a president of a constitutional republic with clear limits and checks on your power. He has been violating the rule of law again and again and again. And Cruz lays out 76 damning instances. And then finally, when a constitutional opposition emerges and rising, surging like a prairie fire across this country, which is going to wipe away him and his criminal regime in November, suddenly now he's warning of dysfunction? What you're hearing last night, what you're going to be hearing now over the next couple months, is an administration in utter and complete panic. And now they're even willing to stoke the fears of this country sliding into political turmoil and chaos like we're some third world banana republic, just to save the dear leader's bacon. That's how irresponsible and reckless he is. 617-266-6868 is the number. Can we take any calls, Brittany? John, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go.
Good morning, Mr. Kuhner. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, John?
Very well, thank you. You know, I'm getting a sense that the average person is starting to wake up, whether it's things with Benghazi. I deal with a lot of people in the public on a daily basis, and people that didn't care a few months ago seem all of a sudden to be really well informed about things like Benghazi and the IRS and seem to have a sincere interest in it. And I think it's great. And I think all this stuff is, as it's starting to come out, is going to. It's just like the Keystone Pipeline. I said to one of them yesterday, what about that? And they said, well, they can ship the oil, somewhere else. And I said, well, what do you mean ship the oil? They're already shipping the oil. So he gets in a fight with me telling me the pipeline hasn't been built. I said, I agree, but do you know that Berkshire Hathaway owns BNSF, which is Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railways, and carries all of that oil 24 hours a day right now from Canada to the Gulf? Guy argued with me. I said, oh, no, they don't. That's far more environmentally dangerous. I said, he walked into my trap. I was like, oh, my goodness. Well, you need to do some homework, my friend. That company that Warren Buffett owns, they have 32,000 miles of railway in North America and Canada. It goes through 28 states he's in and 2 provinces in Canada. And that's why the pipeline's not getting built, because Berkshire Hathaway is making a fortune filling up fuel tanks and bringing that oil to the Gulf every day of the week. And all this stuff will come out. And when the Republicans take over the Congress in the fall and hopefully take over the presidency in a couple more years, and oil is trading back at $65 a barrel, they'll then they'll give the world credit for it instead of giving the Republican president credit for it. But yet now they want to blame the world for all the Democratic president's problems and bad decision making. I mean, it will be such an awakening, and it is going to convince this younger generation that the Nancy Pelosi's and Ed Markey's of the world are not people that represent them.
Bingo. I sense it too. This president, this charlatan in the White House, has awoken a sleeping giant. And that giant, my friends, is us. 617-266-6868 is the number. Obama yesterday at a major Hollywood fundraiser warns of dysfunction, taking America down, forcing us into decline. If the Republicans win Congress in the midterm elections in November, is he now fear-mongering? And his biographer comes out and says, the world has disappointed the dear leader. Has he disappointed us? 617-266-6868. All of your calls next. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report. 617-266-6868 is the number. 657 on the great WRKO. Bob, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Jeff. I have a serious question I need your opinion on Barack Obama.
Sure.
Do you think he's suffering from job lock?
I mean, I'll tell you this. He's having a good time. Say what you want about the dear leader. Nobody can party in the White House like the dear leader. Hey, look, yesterday at Hawaii, in Hollywood, he's off to Hawaii. He's off to the south of France. He likes to do an African safari. He's up in Martha's Vineyard. Yesterday, he was in Hollywood. Drinking, boogieing, partying, schmoozing with the beautiful people. And he knows how to have a good time. He's basically, you know what he is? Well, he was with Kim Kardashian, Brittany tells me. Hey, there, little eye candy. Barbara Streisand sings for him. He stuffs his face, hangs out with Kim Kardashian. Bruce Springsteen, that he met with Steven Spielberg after. They actually gave him a humanitarian award. Just because he's such a great humanitarian. The dear leader knows how to party. No question about it. It's on our dime, but still, nobody can throw a party like the dear leader. Bob, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on RKO. Welcome.
Jeff. Hey, here's the party that we got to look forward to. It's a farewell party in a couple of years. That's the one that we got to look forward to. What a bash that'll be. But let that go. Okay? Imagine what would have happened to this guy if he didn't have the media propping him up. And this is what I really think he can't get over, is how he has fallen so low, where everybody is actually coming out of the comas that he lulled them in because of the propaganda wing of the White House.
Bob, this man, any other president who behaved as illegally, lawlessly, and irresponsibly like this man would have been impeached a long time ago. A long time ago. No, I can't wait for November. I can't wait to see his face when he loses control of the Senate, God willing. And then for the next 2 years, we're going to have Benghazi, the IRS, scandal after scandal, closing in around him and his men. He's going to collapse. I believe he will have a psychological nervous breakdown. 617-266-6868, 7 o'clock here on WRKO. Coming up next, Harvard is now going to be holding, I kid you not, a black satanic mass. Should they be doing so? Should it be banned? We'll have that debate next. Let's take it to Angela in the newsroom. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report. Hour 2, 7:07 here on AM 680 WRKO and now on 93.7 HD2. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can text us at 680-680. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Later in this hour, Harvard is scheduling, I kid you not, this is not a spoof, a satanic black mass reenactment. But before I get to that, that's going to be later this hour. This is why the President of the United States, this is why the dear leader, you don't open your big mouth when it's an issue that doesn't concern you or you have no authority or responsibility over. As you know, we discussed this recently. Liberals are making a big deal about the botched execution. It took 43 minutes to kill this individual in Oklahoma, this very same man who was responsible for the murder of a 19-year-old woman after burying her alive, raping her friend, he and his accomplices, as they kidnapped them, and as he attempted to burglarize a house and beat up a man, a father, right in front of his 9-month-old son. He's been charged, indicted, convicted. He was then sent to die by lethal injection. The injection took 43 minutes. And for some reason, and only the libs can be this twisted, Obama, the Attorney General, the Justice Department, liberals like Marjorie Egan in the Boston Herald, they don't weep for the victims of Islamic terrorism. In fact, they sympathize with Flashbang. But they weep for that convicted monster. And so why did he die such a painful death for 43 minutes? They botched the injection cocktail. To me, what's the problem? It took him 43 minutes to die. It took him a hell of a lot longer to kill Stephanie Name and have her buried alive. To me, it should have actually gone on longer, but let that go. Well, because the president opened his big mouth, and because the president went on about, oh, it's a botched execution, this is a violation of people's human rights, this is cruel and inhumane punishment. In fact, let me replay the cut, because there's the dear leader talking about a state issue that is none of his business. Roll it, Brittany.
What happened in Oklahoma was deeply troubling. The individual who was subject to the death penalty had committed heinous crimes, terrible crimes. And I've said in the past that there are certain circumstances in which a crime is so terrible that the application of the death penalty may be appropriate. Mass killings, the killings of children. But I've also said that in the application of the death penalty in this country, we have seen significant problems. Racial bias, an uneven application of the death penalty, situations in which there were individuals on death row who later on were discovered to have been innocent because of exculpatory evidence.
Well, guess what? Dear leader, you see, first of all, look, I have to say this. Forgive me, okay? But this is the president. You're supposed to show him a certain amount of respect. He is the president. You're a moron. I'm sorry, but you're a moron. And you don't realize, because you're such an adolescent, that when you're the president of the United States and you open your mouth, it has incredible dramatic consequences, profound, impactful consequences on issues that you know nothing about and that are none of your business. Well, guess what happened? Because Dumbo had to open his mouth, Flashbang's lawyers immediately took those comments. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, one of the two masterminds of the Boston bombings here that killed 4 people and maimed, wounded, and crippled over 260. Here, right here in Boston. The lawyers have now, Flashbang's lawyers are now saying, because of the president's comments, they are now demanding that if Dzhokhar Tsarnaev is to be found guilty, he's awaiting trial for the 2013 terrorist bombing, that they want the death penalty to be nixed. They want the judge to rule and consider that the death penalty should be declared unconstitutional. Because according to the dear leader, it could be botched. According to the dear leader, it amounts to potentially cruel and unusual punishment. It's a form of torture. God forbid we should be torturing the flashbang. God forbid we should be torturing Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. And so now, I kid you not, the libs are using this, I swear to you, as a rallying cry that they do not want Flashbang to be sentenced to death. And so today, you know, look, liberalism is a mental disorder, as Dr. Michael Savage says. Whenever there's something really sick, really perverse, you know the libs will back it. You read the Boston Herald today. What do you see in the Boston Herald? Marjorie Egan. And the moment I said, guess what? She's going to now say it's time to end the death penalty, and let's use Dzhokhar Tsarnaev as Exhibit A, Flashbang as Exhibit A, why we should not have the death penalty. Because she's got a crush on him. Because, you know, she's got romantic sexual fantasy. She goes on about how sexy he is, and his hair, and his face, and his eyes, and he's so chiseled, and he's so sexy, and these terrorists, I don't know what it is about them, they're just so manly. The way they construct these bombs, and the way they blow people up, and just look at him. Oh my God, he's so sexy. He's like a boy toy for me. He's on the cover of Rolling Stone. So Marjorie Egan now comes out and says that the death penalty is barbaric. Liberals are now coming out and saying the death penalty is barbaric. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, Flashbang's lawyers, are saying it's barbaric, it's torture, it's cruel and inhumane punishment. Don't take our word for it. Your own president said so. And so, using his comments on the so-called botched execution in Oklahoma, now the lawyers for Flashbang are demanding that the judge rule that the death penalty be declared unconstitutional, and that even if he's found guilty, he's to spend the rest of his life in prison in a nice, comfortable jail cell, 3 square meals a day, with his rug mat, his prayer mat, praying to Mecca, praying to Allah, 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 on the internet, watching cable television. He can watch Al Jazeera. He can watch Al Jazeera. He can email people. They can email him. He can go around and foment jihad. He's got to have square halal meals every day, play a little pool, work out a little bit. Maybe they'll squeeze in some women for him once in a while. Hey, maybe Marjorie Egan can come in and, quote, interview him, unquote. You want to see the utter perversity of liberals? They will defend the slaughter and murder of innocent unborn children, abortion. But they will fight to the hilt to prevent the death of terrorist mass murderers who wreaked havoc and destruction here in our own city. The sickest, most evil, vilest killers in the world, they will defend that they have a right to life. But if you're an innocent unborn baby, slaughter it, kill it, suck its brains out. Flashbang committed mass murder. Flashbang is an enemy of the United States. Flashbang is a war criminal. He committed war crimes in an act of jihad against the American people and against the people of our city. He's going to have his day in court. And when he's found guilty, because he is guilty, and the evidence is overwhelming, he admitted that he's guilty. Like the Nazis at Nuremberg, he will get what he deserves, which is death. And my question to you is this. The liberals are now saying all of the candidates who are running, Democratic candidates who are running for governor, say that Flashbang should not get the death penalty. Marjorie Egan says that Flashbang should not get the death penalty. Liberals in the state are now saying flashbang should not get the death penalty. Should flashbang get the death penalty? The left says no. I say yes. What do you say, Boston? 617-266-6868 is the number. Comrade John, you up first. How are you, comrade?
Yeah, you know how I am. Look where I live now. Listen, the king of the death penalty doesn't want the death penalty anymore. Fast and Furious, 2 American border agents dead, 300 Mexican nationals, 4 dead in Benghazi. How cruel and unusual do you think it was for the Ambassador Stevens to be dragged through the street and reportedly raped? What a hypocrite.
Thank you for that call, comrade. 617-266-6868. Should Dzhokhar Tsarnaev get the death penalty? The liberals in this state say no. I say yes. What do you say, Boston? 617-266-6868. Bruce, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Hey, Bruce.
Yeah, nothing surprises me with those people. They're definitely sick in the head, as sick as he is, because it's given a green light to any terrorist that wants to come and do whatever they want to do. And that's the reason why all them cowards kill themselves in the 9/11 giddy-up and crashing into the World Trade Center, and into our capital. We weren't able to prosecute any of them, just catch maybe some of thin out the herd a little of the bad guys, but that's giving a green light to the bad guys, Jeff. That's going to put a whole new. I mean, let's all go to this. Let's have a big party for this guy and just let him be publicly executed, and let's see how people change their minds about doing damage to innocent children, innocent women, innocent men, and soft targets, which that's what they're targeting now. And if you give them the green light, they're just going to do whatever they want to do, and we're not going to be able to stop them.
Thank you for that call, Bruce. Look, here's what's going to happen. If this animal, if this barbarian, if this terrorist, a psychopath, this mass murderer, if he doesn't get the death penalty, you honestly think the Islamist rebels, the Islamist fanatics around the world, the terrorists around the world, are going to look and say, oh, look how humane they are. Look how civilized they are. It's the exact opposite. These jihadists will look at us and say, look how weak and pathetic they are. We kill their women. We kill their children. We strike in their very cities. And they are so gutless. They are so cowardly. They won't even execute us. Now, they want to die for Allah. Speed Bump, his brother Tamerlan, wanted to die for Allah. Flashbang says he wants to die for Allah. They want to die to get their virgins in paradise. You want your 72 virgins? No problem. You want to die for Allah? No problem. I would be more than happy to inject the needle. And for this guy, I want him to twist and turn, not for 43 minutes. No. I'd say let's give him a good 3-hour injection. Let him think about it for 3 hours as he's slowly entering paradise. 617-266-6868 is the number. 721 on the great WRKO. Liberals now do not want the death penalty for flashbang. I say they're crazy. What do you say, Boston? All of your calls next. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 725 here on the great WRKO. So, Marjorie Terrorista Lava Egan says, hands off my sex symbol. Hands off flashbang. He's so sexy, he's so beautiful. I want to interview him in prison. Wink, wink. No death penalty for him. Many liberals are now, his lawyers have now come out and saying after Obama has criticized the so-called botched execution in Oklahoma, they now do not want the death penalty for Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. I say he deserves to die. The liberals say no. What do you say, Boston? Mike, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
I believe the execution is necessary, preferably by the finest United States Army sniper that we have with one bullet between the eyes. But, Jeff, as this evolves going forward, the death penalty opposers, including the Pope, Cardinal, the politicians, and so forth. And I'm going to say this, Jeff, it may sound a little bit harsh, but the very victims of that bombing, some of them will ask for leniency as far as the death penalty is concerned. They will say no death penalty for this kid. Mark my words. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you for that call, Mike. You know, notice this. When it came to Timothy McVeigh, who was, supposedly a white Christian militia type, a white militia type guy. Ooh, nobody argued against the death penalty. In fact, all the libs were right. Fry him as quickly as you can. Just don't even bother with a trial. Just put a bullet in the guy's head. But suddenly, when you're a Muslim extremist, no, I'll tell you what it is. Deep down, if they're honest, I'll tell you what's going on with, Marjorie Egan obviously has a thing for Jokar. I mean, it's sick. It's perverse. She obviously has a sexual thing she's the one writing these glowing pieces about him and how attractive he is. But for many of the other libs, you put him to death and they're afraid there's going to be retaliation from other Islamic extremists. And so let's kowtow to radical Islam. Don't provoke him. Don't anger him. Put him in a nice jail cell. Give him his halal meals. Make sure that he never has that touches bacon or pork or wine. Satellite television. Give him his Quran. Give him his prayer mat. Because, hey, if we appease him enough, maybe, just maybe, they won't bomb us again. That's what's really... It's cowardice that's driving this, not principle. Tony, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on the Kuhner Report on RKO. Go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call, especially right at this point. I have two comments.
Sure.
The first one, bring back the firing squad. That would handle everything. You get a group of men shooting, it's quick, and then it's over. We need to take, with flashbang, we need to take a lesson from General Jack Black Pershing, who was fighting the Muslims, took 40 Muslims to execute, openly in front of them, dipped 40 rounds in pig's blood, shot 39 of them, let the 40th guy go, didn't hear a peep from the Muslims for 40 years. Now that's what we need to do to flashbang.
Thank you for that call, Tony. Brenda, you're up next on WRKO. Shoot.
Good morning, Jeff. It's just another morning in America. Another day that we got to listen to the baloney coming from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. When I heard President Obama refer to what happened out in the Midwest, and I'm going to say the girl's name because he would never say her name. Stephanie Neiman was 19 years old when she was shot and buried alive by that rapist murderer that he's having sympathy for, that he called it, quote, deeply troubling. Once he uttered that, I thought, all right, this guy is clever. As much as we don't appreciate or even accept his worldview, everything he does has a reason. Very manipulative. I said, okay, now this is going to have some kind of an effect on what's happening up here in Boston. And as you would say, bingo, here we go. Here we go. It's like an indirect comment that's going to go into another direction. And so here we are having this discussion. And how does he think that little Martin Richards' family feels? How does he think the Crystal Campbell's feels? How does he think Sean Collier's family feels? How does he think, I don't know if I can say her name properly, the Chinese gal, Lingzi Lu. Okay? This man, he is a piece of work.
Listen, it's always about him. It's always about his feelings, his ego. So, this is for Marjorie Terrorista Lovey Egan. Terrorista Lova. That's boogie, my friends. Welcome back to the Kuhner Report. 617-266-6868 is the number. 738 here on AM 680 WRKO. Marjorie Akbar Egan, radical liberal columnist at the Boston Herald, never met a terrorist she didn't like. Allah, 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 Allah. Is now saying that it would be utterly barbaric to execute flashbang Dzhokhar Tsarnaev. She's now, in fact, come out and said it would be a great example to the world if Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was not executed, and that this should be the case to demonstrate to the United States and to the world the evils of the death penalty. And I gotta tell you, I don't know what it is. There's something almost satanic about the perversity of many of these liberals, especially the moonbats in this state. And it's not just the Marjorie Akbar Egans of the world. Okay, it's not just the radical libs that you see, whether some of the columnists at the Boston Herald or the Boston Globe or in much of the media and the political class in the state. Take Harvard University. It's Moonbatville. Cambridge is Moonbatville. Okay, the People's Republic of Cambridge. Now, on May 12th, this is not a gag. This is not a spoof. God is my witness. Go to cnsnews.com. This is an honest-to-goodness true story. Harvard University is now planning to perform a satanic black mass reenactment on May 12th. It is going to be performed by this group called the Satanic Temple. They're the exact same group, by the way. Remember the controversy, we discussed it several months ago, where they want a statue of Satan put in Oklahoma City on the state capitol grounds? That's the exact same group that is now going to be reenacting a satanic black mass on May 12th at Harvard University. Like, literally. Devil worshipping. Satan worshipping. Not a figure of speech. They literally are going to be worshiping the devil at Harvard University. Now, according to the spokesman for the Satanic Temple, his name is Lucian Graves. Even the name to me is creepy. Lucian, Lucifer. Anyway, but let that go. He wants everybody to chill out. He wants everybody to calm down because they're not going to be using a consecrated communion host. They're going to be using a non-consecrated communion host during the reenactment. Well, that makes me feel better. So, I mean, you're not going to actually have a real live goat and slaughter it? Because, see, that would be animal cruelty. And that you couldn't do on Harvard University. Worship the devil? No problem. Slit the throat of a goat? No, we can't do that. Don't butcher a goat. Don't slit a goat. So, there will be a non-consecrated communion host, but they're still going to take it. And he says, look, we want to invoke the supernatural. This is what he told CNS News. The Black Mass, according to him, is an amalgamation that developed through time based on witch hunting fears and later adopted by some as a declaration of personal independence against what they felt to be the stifling authority of the church. In other words, they are openly the enemies of Christianity and of the Catholic Church. And that's why for them, murder goes, sexual orgies, burglary, stealing, thievery, you name it, drugs, whatever it is, if it defies religious or church authority, it's fair game. They're Satanists. They worship the Prince of Evil. And so they want to hold this mass, this satanic black mass, as I said, on May 12th. I'm staring at the flyer that's being distributed all across Harvard University campus. And so they're going to, not only are they going to have this mass with, like I said, it's going to be the non-consecrated host, but there may be a goat there, but they won't slaughter the goat. It's a flyer they're passing around with an image of a goat-headed satanic figure. He's standing on an altar, surrounded by damned souls. I think he's got like several, I don't know what he's got, like torches in two hands. He's got like fire torches in both of his hands, pointed upwards. There's a goat for the head, a goat head, and he's got damned souls beneath him and all around him. It's announcing the event. They're going to provide commentary and historic context. They want to recruit as many students as possible into Satanism and devil worshipping. And this is what's going on at Harvard University. Now, ROTC, if you want to recruit people for the military, niet. That's offensive. If you want to hold a pro-life rally, niet. That's offensive. If, for example, you wanted to have Condi Rice, say, come and speak, or maybe Herson Ali, Ali Hersi, the woman from Somalia, who has survived radical Islam, converted to Christianity, and speaks out on women's rights, that would be controversial. You try to get Ann Coulter, I swear, try to get Ann Coulter to come to Harvard University. They're gonna ply her with plies. They're gonna throw one pie after another in her face. She'll need at least an army of security guards if she's lucky to even get on campus. But if you're a devil worshiper, come on down. Our campus is open for business. This is sick. It is evil. It is immoral. It is literally the worshiping of the devil. No one is a bigger champion of academic freedom than Jeff Kuhner. In fact, that's why I've been waging war against political correctness and the Stalinist thugs that run our campuses and academia for the last 20 years. But this has nothing to do with academics or the study of the history of devil worshipping. These are Satanists and devil worshippers conducting a satanic black mass on campus in the attempt to recruit as many students as possible and basically indoctrinate them into this evil lifestyle. God is out. The devil is in. And I'm asking you this. Would you ban a black satanic mass at any college campus? If your son or daughter was going to Harvard, or let's say this was going at the school that your son or daughter is attending, would you insist that that black satanic mass be banned? Let me tell you right now. For Jeff Kuhner, call me old-fashioned, call me crazy, call me intolerant, call me a right-wing extremist, call me whatever you want to call me. Devil worshipping has no business in the public sphere, especially in all places, in schools or universities. 617-266-6868 is the number. Should Harvard ban the black satanic mass being held on May 12th? I say yes. What do you say, Boston? All of your calls next. Harvard University on May 12th is going to be holding a satanic black mass held by the Satanic Temple on campus. I think it's insane. I think it has no place on a university campus. What do you say, Boston? 617-266-6868 is the number. If your kids were going to a university where they were holding a satanic black mass, what would you say? What would you do? Lines are loaded. John, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on RKO. Go ahead.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi, John.
Well, I called in about the last topic, but I'll wing it on this one. Probably not the best caller to lead it off, because I'm not going to agree with you, which is interesting because I agree with almost everything you say. I'm always vote conservative, except I think we've spoken once or twice before. I lean kind of no. I vote present on religion. I don't really swing one way or the other. So to me, reenacting some bygone whatever it is.
John, I mean, I don't want to force you. You can talk about Tsarnaev. You can talk about flashbang, John.
Oh, yeah.
No, we're not liberals here. You see, we have freedom of speech. We actually have true diversity, John. So, no, if you don't want to talk about Harvard, we can talk about flashbang.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, as far as him, if their biggest problem was that they're botching the executions, like one of your other callers said, let's bring back, firing squad. Don't botch that.
John, how about the electric chair?
Yeah, I mean, that always works. If you really want to go back and make sure it works, let's bring in a guillotine.
I like that. To me, honestly, I think that's too quick and too painless. Literally, I'm not kidding. When the French invented the guillotine, it was done as a humanitarian invention. Literally, the blade comes down, the head's chopped off. They say it's to make executions really safe, painless, and efficient. To me, honestly, I think it's too good for the guy. That's it? You mean the blade comes down and he's dead within a second? No. Fry him. Let him suffer a little bit. Hey, don't worry. He's going to be with Allah in paradise forever. He's going to have 72 virgins. Trust me, he's going to have a very good time for a very long time if what he says is true. So let him suffer for a few minutes. I like the lethal injection. I'd go to Oklahoma and say, what cocktail did you use on that guy, Clayton Lockett? I want the exact same cocktail. The same one for, you know what, can you make it go a little longer? Just a little bit longer. And use it on flashbang. At least an hour. Let him suffer a little bit. 617-266-6868. Hey, maybe bring him to Harvard. Let him watch the satanic black mass before we fry him. That's an idea. Doug, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on the Kuhner Report. Welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How we doing?
I'm good. How are you, Doug?
Good, sir. Hey, listen. When you have liberals voting more liberals in, you're not going to have any change. Change is a worn-out word like the word sorry. You need reaction. It's like a knee-jerk. When you vote in people like Mackey and you vote in people like the bobble-headed blonde of Massachusetts, you're not going to have any change.
And, we're getting it. I mean, I honestly thought after the Boston Marathon terrorist bombing, I honestly said, okay, on this one, because our city was attacked, our own people were killed and maimed, the libs, at least on this one, are going to support the death penalty. No. No. I don't know what else to tell you. I want you to think about this. Satanic black masses, yes, good. Killing a terrorist mass murderer, bad. I've just given you liberalism, the moonbats in the state in a nutshell. Carlos, you're on WRKO. Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Jeff. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Carlos?
Good, sir. This is the first time I'm calling in on the report, and let me just first...
Oh, welcome. Welcome, Carlos.
Thank you so much, Jeff. First of all, congratulations for bringing this to the forefront. What's scary about what you're talking about and what's going on the campus on Harvard is more common than we think. Now, I have 4 kids in college right now, and I myself am going to college full-time, and I tell people the biggest wars that are being waged, yes, they're happening on, Beacon Hill and the White House, but they're actually on college campuses where there's indoctrinating, like you say, a lot of these students with this type of stuff. And these are the same people that will occupy places in government, places in civic duty, officials, all this stuff. So, you look at a lot of the stuff that you cover, a lot of the liberalism and the topics that you hit, and how prevailing a lot of those issues are, the hypocritic type of people that we have now. You want to fast forward 10 years and think about this. You look at Harvard University, you look at Yale, they have many secret rooms that has been ruined for years. They practice these satanic rituals under this Baphomet God, which is their goat head God. And it really conforms, I don't mean to preach here, but it really conforms. There's a verse in the Bible that says, in the last days they're going to call what's good bad and what's bad good. And this is all tied in together. So I'm not a doomsday kind of guy, but I'm also a realist, and I see where this thing is going. When you have this going on one campus on the 12th, and they're not hiding it, yet when the school shootings were going on, they arrested a lady for playing on the stairs of a school. So her kid and the kids in that school would be safe. You had an atheist movement that moved forward, had her arrested and removed. Do you know what I mean? We have to ask the question, where is the youth and where is this country headed?
Brilliant. Look, what's bad is good, and what's good is bad. This is what's happening now in our secular, liberal America. And look, We are living in the culture of death in the age of insanity. We worship now death, Satanism. We worship death. We worship abortion. We worship euthanasia. We worship doctor-assisted suicide. And look at the insanity. Terrorist mass murderers, if they happen to be Muslim extremists, no death penalty. You want to worship the devil? We love you. 617-266-6868 is the number. 8 o'clock on the great WRKO. Let's take it to Angela in the newsroom.